Hi everyone, in this video I'll be covering home safety, which is so important when providing care to a person living with dementia. We want to make sure that their environment provides security, familiarity, and that it is safe. And there's some tips I'll be sharing with you. I will walk throughout the home and I'll point out some safety concerns that you might need to address for your loved one in their environment. But there's also some things you might not consider, such as making sure that your loved one has proper eyewear. Sometimes people living with dementia, they have issues with their visual spatial relations. They might not be able to see things that are similar in color, like transitioning from carpet to tile. They might also see more shadows and that sort of thing. So you want to make sure that they have properly fitting eyewear with the right prescriptions. Also, hearing aids are really important. You might not think about it, but when we're in our living environment, what we hear can signal things like a pet that's coming up close or a doorbell ringing. So you want to be sure that they have proper hearing aids, and that also can help with communication. And then finally, assistive devices, such as a walker, wheelchair, or cane. That can really help them navigate their environment and make sure that they're stable at all times. So now that we've covered that, let's start with the kitchen, and I'll share some safety tips. So follow me. So when you're thinking about the kitchen, there are a variety of things that come to mind that you'll want to consider. And I'm first going to show you the stove. We'll cover that first. So on the stove, it's possible that an individual living with dementia could accidentally leave the stove on for an extended period of time. Sometimes that's one of the first signs of cognitive loss. So what you can actually do is remove these little dials and store them, and then when you do need to use the oven, you can always replace them. But that way your loved one can't accidentally turn the stove on and leave it on. Another thing to consider when you're cooking and using heavy cookware is that the items you use most frequently, that they're stored kind of at a reachable destination. So for example, instead of storing your heavy pots below in a cabinet like this where you really have to reach down and the person could lose their balance, you could instead store this kind of an item with easy to install hooks. So you could have a line of pans that they could easily grab off the wall that doesn't require as much effort. Something else that you want to think about is anytime you have high storage, you don't want to put everyday use items up high. We really want to avoid them having to use a step stool to reach up for things in high cabinets. So again, maybe store them on the counter, or you can add some additional storage with those types of hooks that I just mentioned. We also want to consider the tools that we use in the kitchen, such as knives. And while hopefully someone living with dementia wouldn't injure themselves, it's better to be safe than sorry. You might want to, instead of storing these at eye level, you might want to store them out of sight, out of mind, maybe in a drawer or in a cabinet. That way it minimizes the risk to the individual. And then also, when we think about the kitchen and our cleaning products, we want to be sure those are safe and secure. An individual might mistake something like a jug of bleach for a jug of milk, and that just makes my stomach hurt thinking about it, but it is a possibility, and I have heard of families having issues with things like that. So you might want to consider a lock. So you could store all those chemicals in this kind of a cabinet, and then use one of these really easy to use locks that could make sure that it's safe and secure for your loved one. And then finally, when we think about the kitchen, the refrigerator can be a safety hazard in that, if we're not cleaning it out regularly and making sure that those expired foods are being thrown away, the person could accidentally eat something that was expired and make themselves sick. So you want to be sure that you're regularly cleaning out that refrigerator. So those are some great kitchen tips for you to consider.